welcome to Feedback for the week of May 25th, Memorial Day week.
Yeah.
It was April and March, like just recently. This just seems to be accelerating very, very, very quickly.
Too quickly.
Yeah, I mean, because that E3 thing is kind of, I think it's all of our summer solstice. Like, things get shorter after E3. And it's just like, oh, wow, okay. Let's introduce our panel. Jake Gaskill. Hello, Jake.
How you doing?
How are you? I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Pretty good.
Yeah. Matt Kyle. It's been too long. Good to have you back. And Emily Gordon.
Hello.
It's been very recent that we had you here, and now you're back as well. Yes, E3. I don't know what point, Matt, you might know this. At what point did we start to just, in our minds, pre-E3, post-E3, that's how you kind of segmented the year?
I think that truly happened in 2005 when we started doing it live. Mm-hmm. Because that became, like, basically the biggest production of the year.
Because you saw it as the hump. It was like that massive Wednesday in the middle of a year, and that, things would get relatively easier following.
And it's gotten
that.
bigger and bigger, and now the last several years we spend a month booking demos ahead of time and pre-producing everything. And
we would spend the first 2 weeks of that month booking demos, and then the second 2 weeks of that month trying to convince them to still do the demo.
Yeah, it's definitely the thing it's the thing we work hardest on all year, and then like number 2 would be like, the best of at the end of the year. Yeah. So it's just
or just trying to get through all the games at the end of the year, which is a far more appealing challenge.
Yeah, and I don't know if there's more games now or if I'm just older, but like there is actually a sense of panic of like, will I remember everything that happened at E3? Will I remember all the games that need to be remembered? It's like there's so many important things.
There's so many viable games. I think that's what changed. Is that like especially during the Xbox PS2 generation, you just could get that nose like, you're important, you're not. I need to get to you immediately. You will just figure out if if we need to play you so quickly that Pursuit Force.
Yeah.
To bring up a game from last week's feedback, which apparently people were writing in surprised I forgot all about it because they said I did the review. I didn't review it. I just voiced it, and I think I voiced
a lot.
How much? It just doesn't. Sometimes I just go on autopilot and say the words on the page.
I remember the days when I could still keep track of how many minutes of television I'd produced.
Yeah.
That's cute. Really.
The good old days.
And actually, I think I'll bring something up. I think it's worth honoring this. We don't have her on today, but Morgan Webb is celebrating 10 years. Obviously, those 10 years go back all the way to the Tech TV days, back when it was on Screensavers.
Yep.
She had really short white hair. I think that was
White?
the first haircut.
Yeah.
Nice.
Platinum blonde.
Her hair has been one of my favorite things to track over the years. I'm a big fan of her and her hair.
Definitely metamorphosized.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll just say this right now. I could not ask for a better fellow host to have on television with, and so congratulations for 10 years. It gets easier after 10, I've learned. No, it doesn't.
And what anniversary is this? What are you supposed to get her this year? Does anybody know?
I don't know.
Plastic? Is it wood? Might be wood.
I thought 10 years was tin.
10?
10? Maybe it's like an aluminum foil hat that protects you from the effects of the waves, from the aliens and all that stuff.
All the waves.
E3. Emily, this is your first E3.
Yes.
So you must be rife with questions, concerns, curiosities about what to expect.
I don't know what to expect at all. I've never been. I've been to Comic-Con. I went to PAX this past year, but I've never kind of been in. So how long? What are you guys at? What are your?
I think Adam and I are at 13 this year.
Yeah, 13 or 12. I don't know what.
99 was the first time I went.
I think that's 12. Yes, and that's when I interviewed Jake Lloyd. Is that 13?
If you include 99.
Yeah, okay. I interviewed Jake Lloyd. This is the first interview I ever did at an E3. It was in the Nintendo booth. It was for Racer.
Pod Racer game, yeah.
It was the worst interview I have ever had. He just kind of was in child star mode and was just kind of dreamy and weird. And halfway through the interview, he actually just kind of turned away and started talking to the animatronic Quado that was behind him.
Very comfortable.
You mean Watto, right?
Watto? I don't know.
Yeah, Watto is the flying episode 1 guy.
Quado's from Total Recall, right?
Quado's the Siamese twin thing in the stomach of the guy in Total Recall.
They're very close.
Whatever that character is
similar.
in Phantom Menace, there was something I felt there was something oddly Shylockian about it and anti-Semitic and just maybe...
Absolutely.
You mean the fact that he was a flying Jewish stereotype? That might have been what you were picking up on there.
But everyone decided to fixate on Jar Jar Binks. I'm like, all he's missing is the yarmulke.
Yeah.
All right?
Well, you had him, you had Jar Jar Binks, you had the Asian alien invaders, and like it was just...
they were...
I mean,
offensive to everybody.
I guess they could have, had him voiced by Alec Guinness to get that perfect perfect Oliver Twist reference.
Not
knowing.
independent film's finest moment.
He turned, he started talking to the animatronic thing. Everyone kind of oohed and awed, and I really just felt like I had just walked into some stupid world. E3 got much better after that moment.
He was 7, 8. How old was he?
He's 9 or 10,
9,
I think.
10.
To be fair, the most recent interview with him went much worse.
Really? What happened?
He's like out of college or something. I mean, he's like 20, 21, 22 now, and it was just some like fan site or something interviewing. But it's like what's it feel like to be part of the Star Wars legacy? And he's just like, get the away from me. Like, it's just like it was. He's not into it, and it sounds like he spent all of college being called Anakin by what passes for his friends. And I don't think it was a boon to his life.
No,
really.
no. I think childhood stardom has not treated most people well.
No.
Well,
Not
he
me,
didn't go on
certainly.
anything. It's like, everyone's like, oh, this kid's going to be a big... No, he didn't. Would he do anything after
He
that?
did
No.
literally nothing
No
after
one
that.
wanted to touch
I think
him.
he was he on Broadway? I'm thinking Haley Joel Osment was on Broadway a little while ago, and people were like, meh.
Yeah, well, there's Broadway and then there's Vegas, so at least he gets the Broadway
Yeah.
part.
Well, they can't all be
the
Daniel.
Great White Way.
They can't all be Daniel Radcliffe.
No. What are we excited to see? Obviously, a lot of things. I'll just go around. Jake, is there any one game that's standing out to you?
Yeah, there are a bunch. I mean, last week we had pre-3, so we got to see, a bunch of things. BioShock Infinite, which preview just went up yesterday, is phenomenal. Just in case you were wondering.
That's really not a shocker to me, but I'm still excited.
Yeah, no, so that's at the top of the list at this point. So.
Matt?
Wow, I'm pretty excited to see Battlefield 3 in action finally, and I'm also hoping for a release date for Old Republic.
Yeah.
And it was just announced that I guess CD Projekt, the guys who made Witcher, are announcing something new.
Hopefully it has a 3 in it.
I hope so.
Yeah. We will be talking about Witcher 2, Matt and I, a little bit later in the show. Outside, I mean, you haven't even been to E3, so I don't even know if you can pin something that you're saying I'm excited to see.
Bioshock Infinite, definitely. But I just I like being on the floor. I like kind of being immersed. It's so overstimulating anytime you're at any of these kind of situations. So that's kind of what I'm looking forward to. We're going to have our 360 camera there. The G4 360 camera is going to be there. So that'll help people at home kind of get a sense of what it's like. But that's what I just kind of want to be there. I just want to take it all in.
I have to say, it is overstimulating, and it's very much like Disneyland, where at 4 p.m., everyone just starts having temper tantrums and crying, and people are trying to drag them away from everything.
Why am I so tired?
I think I'm excited, not because I necessarily think it's going to be the best thing ever, but I want to see this Nintendo console because it's going to say so much about. Has Nintendo learned its lesson? Are they seeing a two-pronged business model if they have more of an adult console and they also support the Wii? It could once again recombine how people are going to be approaching consoles and stuff like that because we're not expecting to see anything from the big guys until 2014, and I bet they're going to look at this as a litmus test of what might go down. So,
and speaking of have they learned anything, I'm also pretty curious to see what the price is going to be on the NGP.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's what the NGP. I just want a name for that damn thing because I don't talk about it that much because I can't say NGP
It
without
doesn't go trippingly off the tongue at all.
No. I mean, I got used to saying we, but like I said, it sounds like a mid '90s hip hop collective. I'm with the NGP. And
yeah, you know me.
Yeah, you know me, or I like whenever I do
Sony.
that. No, still, I have the Motown Philly video in my head, and I just see Michael
You
Bivins
always have that
sitting
video in
on
your
the
head.
can because it's the
But now it's
strangest moment
appropriate.
in musical history. Why is he in the toilet rapping?
What? Yeah, on the toilet. Still dressed very dapper though.
And it's
very
a
dapper.
really strange bathroom. It's got it's like the white and the red. It's just a very strange.
Just
fantasy
because
world.
you got to go to the bathroom doesn't mean that the creativity stops.
It
I
doesn't.
know.
It
I
flows
know.
out of you.
You got to get it out.
That's terrible.
It's probably symbolic in that way.
Yeah, it probably is.
Well,
I mean,
and I've heard a lot of stories kind of as like I've been around, like I've just heard people like, oh, E3 a couple years ago, you should have been there. So I was kind of wondering what's the craziest thing that you guys seen, and games count, not games count, just in general, what's the craziest thing you've seen that you can talk about?
yeah, that I can't.
That we
talk
can
about.
talk
Yeah,
about. That's the
part.
key.
Because I've heard plenty of stories, and I was like, oh, I really want that, and they were like, no, we can never speak of this.
I was always impressed by the indoor skate ramps that
I was about to
Activision used
say,
to do.
it used to be because remember they're like the legacy of E3 is it got big, and then 4 years ago?
2007, it got
bam,
small.
it
Because
became
06 was
tiny.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
06 was like, you almost had to hit people to get the camera crew through the floor.
Really?
They got way too liberal in terms of who could actually attend, and like actually getting your job done there became very, very challenging. Also, they're supposed to be regulated in terms of what the decibel level is in the booths, and they were complete. Someone would crank it up, and the guy next to them would then crank it up, and it would just be this deafening din that just
Actually, I got one thing that happened, and it happened to Adam, but I was right there when it happened. It was, I think, 2004. It was 2003 or 2004. When we were still, our booth was the corner of the Brady Games booth, and which
really was a booth that didn't have corners. That was the weirdest part.
It was just like two stools on the end of it.
Yeah.
But we were packing up. It was the last day, though. Everything was closing up, and we were packing up and putting things in bags. And suddenly, Bing Gordon, who was still with EA at the time, walks by and sees Adam, and is like, "Adam, I want you to meet my friend Robin." And of course, it's Robin Williams.
But it took me a while to figure this out because he has his cap down.
Yeah, he's like kind of incognito, and Adam's like, "Boo," and Bing's like, "Adam hosts a show that reviews video games," and Robin Williams looks at him and goes, "Sounds like a pretty good gig." And like, he's like, "All right, we gotta go, Adam. We gotta go," and he just walk away. And Adam's entire involvement in that conversation was,
That's beautiful.
Yeah,
it was a drive-by.
Yeah.
When did you realize it was Robin Williams?
Well, first I remember shaking his hand. No disrespect to a man who I think is a comic genius. And I'm looking at his arm, which is just sinewy with muscles and very hairy.
Very hairy. Yes.
And I don't know what the trigger was, but something suddenly clicked in my head and went, Robin Williams. Because I think at that point I knew that Bing Gordon and he had this long-standing friendship. And, yeah. I mean, there's some crazy... I mean, the skate ramp... Everyone trying to outdo each other. And you know what the thing was, is that was also during an era where you didn't have as many good games, and you almost needed this distraction to kind of, get people excited.
Yeah, there was kind of a carny atmosphere at times.
Yeah.
Where it was like trying to attract attention to the game that like you'd be like, "Oh, what the hell is that? What's the dance number with the elephants and the balls and the pigs?" And you go over there and it's like, "Oh, it's
for
a
this.
Majesco game." It's Blood Rain 2.
The other thing is, at
relevant.
one point, there were as many PCs showing games as consoles. I mean, I still remember that.
Yeah, Microsoft used to have a whole section.
Yeah, games for Windows section, which
The
doesn't-
RTS section, really.
Yeah, really. It's like, and Ensemble is doing this.
And here's all the RTSs for the year and Microsoft Flight Simulator. That was what that section was.
What they need now is an old timer section, so Matt and I can sit there with some other people and just be like, "You kids these days
I
so
remember
easy."
the days. Yeah.
And of course, Kensha Hall, which used to house all the weird little mobile things and the Korean developers and the developers that couldn't make it into the big halls.
It really was like the kids' table.
Yeah, it was
A
weird.
smelly kids' table, unfortunately.
And my
Well, it had
favorite-
a much lower ceiling, and so
Yeah.
it just sense
It felt
tended to be more-
claustrophobic.
Yeah.
And I think my favorite memory of that was when we sent Johnny Extreme around trying to pitch his game, and he did it in the Koei booth. He actually got Jarek
Jarek,
who was a great sport about it, but he didn't know that Johnny was going to smash the bottle on his crotch as he always does. And so you see on the footage, you can still see this on our side. I think he agrees to put Johnny in the next Dynasty Warriors game, and Johnny he celebrates by smashing the bottle on his crotch, and you see Jarek just realize that his booth is covered in glass bits now, and he just goes, "Oh."
That wasn't even your story. That's like a secondary story.
It's wonderful, and we have it on video.
Yeah.
Do you have any stories, Jake? Do you have any craziness?
I mean, this is my third, well,
Yeah.
2.5. The first year was just like the last day. So relatively new. Normal stuff. The craziest thing was all in my head, actually, was last year at the Konami's press conference, which it's not a horror show.
You did not
for the reason
hallucinate that.
No, exactly. But the theater that was in was like really dark, and it had this like, it almost looked like a vampire bar, like lighting going on. So like we were downstairs, and I remember looking up and just seeing all of the Konami Japanese businessmen in suits, like just leaning on the railing, looking down. And for a split second, I thought we were all going to be murdered for their amusement. Like
Blade
just for
4?
no reason. I just looked up and I was like, we're all going to die. And they're betting on it. And I know it. And that kind of freaked me out for a second.
Fair enough.
So it didn't actually happen. It was in my head.
I think my memory is the conclusion of E3 in 2004. We were still Tech TV. We had about a month and a half left, I think.
Yeah.
We're all at the Burbank airport, 3 hours ahead of our flight. And we just
this
kind of
was-
know that things are coming to an end, getting absolutely faced. And by the time we get on the Southwest jet, we're all singing. We're singing songs I had written with my good friend Mark for something I wanted to produce called the Tech TV Opera. And we're just on like this caravan of people going 9 hours of live TV, all about technology, over and over and over and over and over again. Digital cameras, aren't they fun? We're going to show you every one over and over and over and over and over again. That was
On
the
the
Tech
plane.
Live
The
section.
whole front of the plane.
And I remember
But-
parents trying to get their kids to not pay attention to us.
Yes.
We were making such a scene of
But
ourselves.
the one thing I do really remember about that is there was like 15 of us, and we were all taking up the front of the Southwest jet, except the window seat next to you and Mark was this one woman who had nothing to do with us. And I guarantee you she still tells stories about that
That's
flight.
the story. Somebody's like, "What's the worst flight you've ever
Yes.
been on?"
On their feedback, that's what they're doing. I want to hit a question of the week. This is from XPlay fan 1500. We have 1500 fans?
Give or take.
How many times can my mom replicate? My question is, with E3 beginning to take shape, what does Sony have to do or say at their press conference to keep gamers in the industry interested in them? Nintendo's going to reveal a new console. Microsoft, I think, will coast through E3 since they had Kinect and the Slim. Every year, G4 covers the big three press conferences and then discusses afterwards who had the best show. What does Sony need to show or say or win the proverbial gold G4 medal? The big thing, I think, surrounding Sony is they need to talk their way out of the situation they created for themselves with the PSN shutdown. And they need to somehow do that, give it closure, and move on. And with the fact that hopefully by then, PSN will be up and running. I mean, they have to.
Well, I think
Better be.
that was the really big disappointment because this year, as far as exclusives go, Sony is at the top.
It's-
I mean,
yeah.
their lineup this year
bad timing.
is phenomenal, and it just
Yeah.
happened to be terrible timing.
I
for
would
them.
almost hope that they would announce some games that like for next year that would kind of indicate that this trend is
This
going to
a trend.
continue.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I think they need to focus back on the games. I think it's now widely considered that Sony's in-house developers just knock them out. I mean, it's
Yeah.
become reliable that I could buy something blind with just that
Absolutely.
Sony
I mean,
Game
trust
Studios.
them, except then this. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I mean, come on. Whatever happened with PSN, it's not like I'm not going to play Uncharted 3. It's
Yeah.
not like I'm not going to play Last Guardian. Like it's
exactly.
They're too good to
Yeah.
walk away from.
Now, what's funny is my memory of the Sony press conference last year is they weren't trumping this ridiculous lineup of games they had. In fact, it was something that I think that we had to slowly intuit over time. Like, wow, hold on, that's a lot of games.
Yeah, it wasn't until like we started doing kind of in December or January, sort of like the big ones of 2011. Like we started to realize like these packages are nothing but Sony games.
Now the risk with Sony is, remember, they have a new console. It's the NGP, which they better name something else called the not NGP. I mean,
an NGP.
they've had trouble with those handhelds, and I can also see the risk for them is if they go too heavy on that, they're kind of eschewing what they're best known for and best
Their
respected
bread
for
and
right now,
butter. Absolutely.
which is the PS3 and the games that are currently on the PS3. I mean, there's a lot of risk, but there's a lot of reward if they can top themselves.
But has anything like this ever come up at an E3 where a company's having to kind of talk their way out of like a PR nightmare or like something that's gone wrong? I mean, has that ever happened?
Well, Sony.
Sony, yeah.
The infamous Killzone 2 video that they finally had to concede was not real time from the game engine,
Right.
but frame by frame modified to what they thought it would turn out to be. The following year, they actually showed that same clip played real time on their stage. I mean,
And
that
there were
was-
also the years where everyone was like, "Is Microsoft going to address the Red Ring?"
yeah.
Which they never really.
No,
They never
They just
no,
kinda
they
didn't
never did.
talk
And
about
as
it.
I recall, they just got really angry when we said the word during E3.
Really?
While we would get phone calls.
And I think there was also the year people really started to get disillusioned with the Wii.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, is Nintendo going to do anything? And that was, I think, the year with the balance board
Yes.
and the vitality sensor.
Oh, the
Yeah,
vitality
where they
sensor.
just seem
and
to
everyone's
be-
just like, what?
Yeah, they just seem
throwing
to
more
have
stuff. Here, take
lost
this,
all,
take
like,
this. Yeah.
they lost their mooring.
As Penny Arcade said, we are rich as here's some you don't care about.
Now, I see where XPlay Fan 1500 is coming from. I would say I think the biggest challenge is Microsoft. I've found their press conferences in the past couple of years to be even less entertaining than Nintendo, which is a remarkable thing. They also have a very plastic quality. That's why I went after that whole thing with Kinect with the two women. I've never said they weren't gamers themselves, but Microsoft chose to represent them as just kind of like, oh, what is this Kinect
Yeah.
thing?
And they go first which
they go first.
Some people say is like, well, at least they don't have to top anything, but it also means you got to make it so you remember them.
Now, I remember the year where they started with the Beatles and ended with Spielberg. That's how you get people to chat.
I wore shoulder pads last year. So
yeah,
that's why I remember.
I'm not aware of any games. I mean, literally, ear to the ground, can't really hear much about significant rumblings and stuff. They've been very, very game light the past couple of years, and they have not really shown a true vision. They keep on going to Connect, which, once again, not a talking point. For as big as they try to say that launch was, we don't discuss it. And we would be discussing it even if we don't play it, if it seemed to have some sort of relevance out there. I think that Microsoft I don't think that their business depends on it, but in terms of if they want to prove what they're doing, they really need to do it this year.
And I don't even know if we have time to talk about it, but I think it's interesting that like you're talking about the press conferences that are the most memorable and the ones like what ends up being the biggest thing at E3 because like you said, it was a huge spectacle, and then it kind of got taken back down to bare bones. Like, what do you guys prefer? What do you think is a better E3?
I like the spectacle. It's harder to work at the spectacle, but it shows that the industry is healthy.
Okay.
And it's better TV.
It's much better television. I mean, it's when things. I mean, when they put it in Santa Monica, and you had to go to various hotels. It was just like.
Yeah.
The reason the Cannes Film Festival looks the way it does is it says, look, we're the movie industry. And this was like, please don't look at us. It was like, it was like Cronenberg's Fly.
I think the thing that most impresses me these days at like the press conferences is if something gets announced that we don't know about. Because things are so, it's so hard to keep anything under wraps anymore that like if something like that, like the Final Fantasy 13 on 360 announcement happened a few years ago, where I remember where we had to turn our camera in a different direction, despite the fact they ran a trailer we had already seen the previous year. And I remember they when we were in there like setting stuff up, they ran like a little snippet by accident. It was like kind of came up or something. I remember I saw something like that, and I said to you like, it's like, do you think that was Final Fantasy 13? And you're like, no, that's ridiculous. Well, there's no way.
Now, granted,
no one believed that could happen.
Right, but my no is ridiculous to Matt was also really more like, God, I hope that's not the reason that we're turning the camera away.
Yeah. Because that was.
But see,
those are the things that are big, are the one where you just don't expect it to happen and it hits you in the face. Like Nintendo had that last year's press conference.
Well, and probably the one that many people will talk about was the first reveal of the Wii in motion.
Right.
Which at that moment it was like, oh wow, because it was Travolta in Pulp Fiction. It was like, they did it. They're back. They're doing something remarkable. We just never really got the sense of where this was going to go, which was not much anywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to think about other. Oh, hold on, Jake. 360 camera that G4TV.com is going to be using. This is a piece of technology that has nothing to do with the Xbox 360. It has to actually do with the traditional 360, which is a complete circle.
That's true. It's kind of a crazy piece of equipment that we're going to be kind of taking around the floor and setting up at the booth at the X-Play stage, and it's kind of insane. It has cameras all the way around, as you would expect from 360. Films them all, and then kind of exports as video that you can control. So
you can see. It's like, hold on, what's over in that corner?
Right.
You do something, and then you can see it.
Yes,
just with your mouse.
Just with your mouse.
Yeah.
We actually have some videos up on the site that you can test it out with. It's kind of wild. So for anybody who can't,
it's kind of like those when porn used to be on DVD and you could look at alternate angles.
That was so exciting.
It was kind of like that.
They thought that was going to be the end all be all.
I really thought that was going to. And then it turns out there's a reason they picked the one angle.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
usually the best angle. I don't want to look at her hair.
No, that's the 1970s. I'm sorry.
Oh, wait. Oh, never mind. I just got that.
So none of you guys were on the show last week, so I thought I would check in. When we were talking about LA Noire last week, it's that challenging one where I was the only one who had actually played it all the way because it just come out that day. I thought we'd just have a moment and just sort of get your impressions. Jake, I'll start with you. You did the review of Red Dead Redemption. You're a familiar and a fan of Rockstar in the past.
Yeah, I mean, I'm about. I think I just finished the last case on Homicide, or I'm on it at this point. And I really dig it. I mean, LA Confidential, the game, was something that I've been calling for, just like I'd been calling for GTA Western. So it was one of those, finally get to see it realized. And I dig the world a lot.
How quick are you going through it? I mean, are you finding that you're playing this game more slowly than you would another game?
I the normal pace, I think. I'm not fast traveling nearly as much as I would in any other kind of open world-ish kind of game, just because driving around the city is something that I enjoy. but
not,
you know,
not in real life in Los Angeles.
no, not at all, not at all. But no, the normal pace. I mean, it carries you through, kind of. So you don't want to stop, and I haven't like reloaded. Really, I think even when I mess up, and I get really mad at myself for messing up.
You're a strong man.
Yeah,
I reload.
I think with that, I'm just going to go to Matt because I know that you've been playing it, and that has.
Yeah,
what was an issue for me, I think, really, like you're seeing that too.
Yeah, I really, because I like the subject matter, and I feel like I would feel about it the way you do if it did not play that chime when you get things right or wrong, and it didn't list the number of questions you got right or wrong, because, like, then it's like, you ruin it for me. Like, I'm just thinking about doing it right as opposed to just doing what I'm trying to figure out.
Something that was a little bit more dynamic.
It robs it of, like, the immersion, I think. I completely, you're just constantly poking me in the head with the fact that I'm playing a game.
And just for those people out there, because this is, I think, the you can turn off any of the cues, but the clue finding becomes nigh impossible if you don't have that
Absolutely
rumble and that
impossible.
music.
Yeah.
Especially, trust me, once you get to arson.
Yeah, especially because there's no first person view.
Yeah.
So like, it's hard to tell what would be an object you can look at and what isn't.
Have you made it to Hollywood yet in the game?
To what?
Have you driven through Hollywood yet?
Oh,
in
yeah.
the game? Yeah. It's just I
went. I found the Egyptian theater. I found the Cat and Fiddle. I found all that stuff.
It's just such a trip.
And it's a beautiful realization of LA, except for the part where they move the tar pits about 2 miles east because they didn't want to go out here.
Yeah.
How dare they?
And also, I don't think there's wooden piers underneath the
Yes,
tar
well,
pits.
nor is there a hedge maze at LACMA. LACMA has some wonderful, wonderful, wonderful paintings and art collections. They don't have a hedge maze, so
No, just that street lamp thing.
yeah, exactly.
And that's
So
a recent acquisition.
Don't come looking for the hedge maze when you're visiting
But I
Los
like it.
Angeles.
I don't drive much. I fast travel more than anything
do you?
because I can't stand the traffic pattern.
there
Because
are some annoying.
I don't know
things,
why
so.
Rockstar can't figure out how to make an algorithm that tells the traffic not to turn left directly into me,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
like drives me crazy. And like the fact that like I'll be speeding to make it through an intersection, my light's red, there's cars going through the other side, and the car like going through stops to honk
right in the
at
middle,
me,
right.
and
Yeah.
I'm just like, no, you couldn't even see me, and that's it. Why would you stop?
Plus, they're speeding. It always looks like they're going to
it's-
speed through, and then they just stop.
It's
and hit 'em.
Well, my favorite is when
really
there's heavy
infuriating.
traffic and you put on the siren, and I know that they're trying to move right, but there's no right to move to, and so everyone just stops dead.
Yeah, that's the most obnoxious. The siren thing is obnoxious, and I don't like that you can't wreck. I kind of always enjoyed like having that just be a thing I could do if I wanted to. I can slam into anybody I want to, and the fact that you get that little warning how it will impact your.
I actually said sorry twice when I hit people. I felt just kind of bad.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I mean, I see why they didn't want to break the illusion of the world. I have also wondered. I don't know if they were able to use the LAPD, records and stuff like that in the development of the game, where that would also, I imagine a lot of police departments like, don't do that GTA thing. Also, so there's been these overheating things. Has it happened to anybody here?
Nope.
No.
One person I talked to said that theirs had shut off a couple of times, but not
As in crash, like
Yeah.
you can boot it up again.
absolutely, and it's fine.
It just seems. I mean, this story seemed to get some heat under it. That
Wah,
that just seems a little more than what the situation seems to be.
I mean, it just started. I mean, they basically just posted what seems like something anybody would post, like a troubleshooting kind of like, oh, we've heard that perhaps it has caused problems, but no reason for concern, and then kind of people ran with it. So
I think people are so excited. Like it's been such a talked about game that any way that people can talk about it, they're just going to talk about it. So
We got to find the bad thing. Look at it.
Yeah,
We got to
exactly.
find. Oh, look, it overheated.
that's the reason Mad Men's
don't
not
play it in
filming
your
yet.
microwave.
Like, that's
is
gonna be
Yeah,
the next
exactly.
one.
actually a tip.
I want to do something. We'll call this malignant rumors because everyone loves the word malignant. As I believe I just answered a question that's like, what's the best health advice you ever got? The guy who tells me it's benign. Okay, that's the best health advice. So we're gonna rate things from 1 to 5. 1 is probably true. 5, complete horse crap. And these are rumors or things that could possibly be happening at E3 this year. Microsoft releasing a 3D Xbox.
5.
I'm gonna go 5 on that.
I went 4, but I'm not as inside
Why-
as you
why
guys.
would you?
4.5.
Like,
I
Split
mean,
that.
we haven't been told
The
that.
Xbox can do 3D.
Yeah, that's
like,
what
Avatar was in 3D on the Xbox.
Yeah,
So why would you need another system?
It's just that one of the wiser decisions I think Microsoft has made recently is their skepticism and lack of interest in this 3D craze, which,
sure.
given the receipts for Pirates of the Caribbean 3D screens, shows this thing is finally coming to its natural end.
Yay.
Yay. Okay, Alan Wake 2 coming to Xbox Live Arcade.
With Kinect support.
I'll give that a 2.
I'm going to go 2.
Yeah,
I can
I'm
buy
gonna
that.
give it a
I'd
2.
say 2.
So you're going to be
I would
holding
like
a
that.
flashlight?
Yeah, I can dig that. And I was thinking about LA Noir as well. That would be a good idea too.
Oh, that would be a great idea.
Any kind of thing where you can interact. I like
Yeah.
that.
Well, I mean, given the episodic nature of Alan Wake and the length of dev time, probably this isn't a bad route to go with it.
Yeah.
It'll just be a flashlight minigame.
I think the other is, I thought it was a fine game. I have not thought, gosh, I could use more Alan Wake. So I know that people are very split.
Although
on
the
that one.
DLC on it was actually very good.
Yeah.
I forgot
So
about that,
you know,
yeah.
maybe they once you get away from the initial game, it's like they had a lot more ideas they came up with
Yeah,
over the
yeah.
course. So if they need to do that to get them out, I'm into that.
Okay, GTA 5 coming in time for Nintendo's new console. Of course, this is Matt and I have played this parlor game. When is the Nintendo console coming out? I still think there's a shot at spring because they released the 3DS, but there is no precedent also for them doing that.
Yeah, you don't release a console in the spring. The Sega Saturn ended that forever.
Jake, on the console and spring debate.
4.
Okay, but GTA 5 is going to be with the new Nintendo console. Once again, let's just clarify to our viewers out there. No one has confirmed the existence
We
of
don't know
GTA
any of
5.
these things.
Although I could see the business acumen that might be driving that thinking.
If Nintendo has learned from how Sony stole every Square from them,
Yeah.
it wouldn't be a bad move. But I don't know.
I don't see it being exclusive. I see it being multi-platform, but that's being one of those like, hey, you can get the Nintendo thing and not sacrifice your access.
Yeah, maybe
to
the
this
like the
game.
360 with GTA 4, where like the episodes would be exclusive.
Yeah,
for
there's
Yeah.
no way it would be exclusive. Like,
I
there's
mean,
no way.
I think I could see this being, and where the rumor's coming is that Nintendo would make a strong statement about the audience for their console if it has GTA 5 on it. I'm going to give this one a 2.
I'm going to go 3, right in the middle.
Yeah, I'll go 3 on that one. I don't
Three's
know.
feeling warm right now.
I don't know who I trust in that one.
Okay, this one is just a leak or not. Penguin appearing in Arkham City.
I'll give that a 1. Like,
Yeah,
I don't.
yeah,
That's
like,
a
it's-
no-brainer.
it's-
That's not necessarily a leak. That was
Yeah,
That's
Penguin's in
happening.
Arkham City.
But then they were like, oh, they didn't confirm it. But like, do they need to? Does anybody need them to confirm
Nah,
it
it would-
necessarily?
In a situation they've set up in Arkham City, the idea that the Penguin wouldn't be trying to get a piece of that action is
Yeah.
ridiculous. So
Yeah,
I'm sure he's in there.
I'm trying to think what would be the shocker
Yeah.
character to be found in
Superman,
Tweedledee and Tweedledum or something like that.
the ventriloquist. Maybe
Yeah.
I don't know.
Man, that
He
would
is
be
in there.
cool.
That would be cool. That
You know
would be
what?
super
Maybe they should
creepy.
have an expansion called the Isle of Lost Villains, where like all these really random ones that we learned about in Arkham Asylum, like you get to interact, and
That
they're
would
just
be
kind of
pretty cool.
lonely, and they just want attention.
Like
They might- and they
finally
just
the
have
return
tea
of the
together.
Clock King.
Yeah. Was that Vincent Price in the TV show? Or was he
I think
the
it
Eggman?
was. No, he was Egghead.
I think Vincent Price played 2 villains. He might have been Clock King as well.
No, I thought that wasn't
I gotta
Clock.
look
I
that
don't
up.
remember.
That's exciting.
Yeah, we're gonna look into this.
Now I'm confusing him with King Tut.
Yeah. Oh, that show. Halo Combat Evolved, remade, probably with the Reach engine.
I'm gonna go with a 1 on that
I'm
one.
gonna
I would say
Ooh,
one.
that's
Yeah.
exciting.
I mean, this story's
is-
been swirling for quite
Yeah.
some time.
Well,
so
this
I
is the
think that
10-year anniversary of Halo.
Yeah.
Like
This
you
would
have
be
to
the
do
time.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't be
I
surprised.
think the bigger question is, do they talk about another Halo game from 343 Studios? I mean,
Maybe, but
I think there's a strong shot at that one too. So
Could be. I don't see a fully new Halo game coming out this year, but I think you have to do something for 10 years.
well, it's also Microsoft has just got to talk about some games for their system. They got Gears of
Yeah.
War coming out,
Yeah.
and what? I mean,
Yeah.
Forza. Gears and Forza.
and
those are it.
yeah. It's just not a strong. Anyway, I'll talk about a game that you can play, but not on an Xbox. Which Matt has finished it and loves it. I am playing it and love it. Witcher 2: Assassins of Kings. This is came out the same day as L.A. Noire. I don't think I've ever seen a release date with 2 games more divergent in every aspect than these 2 games.
I'm sorry, and you finished it already?
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
amazing.
5 out of 5, correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It's
Wow.
it's on PC. It is something of a system hog if you want all the bells and whistles.
A little brutal on the system requirements. I have a pretty top of the line PC I got back in October from Falcon Northwest that runs it well, and our new Origin PCs run it well, but you got to turn off Uber sampling.
Yes.
Which is
future tech, right?
It's
like
some kind of future tech.
magic.
I think what I was told is it super samples it and re-renders it at 5 times the normal resolution,
Wow.
which I think is a future-proofing tech for like the next generation of cards.
And I don't
or
even know if a
whatever.
current monitor could actually even handle that kind of video output.
Well, the cards certainly can't handle the frame rate. I'll tell you that much. So you just turn that off, and it runs on ultra with everything else maxed very well. But again, you're talking about a very high end system. It's still on low detail. Is probably one of the best looking games of the year.
Yeah. Now, you were a fan of The Witcher, and you finally this year turned me into a huge fan of The Witcher.
Mm-hmm.
Where does this fall? I think one of the big questions I've been asked is, do you want to play Witcher 1 for this game? And it does, it does do a Mass Effect, and it takes your saves.
You do. It does take your save. It does impact some things, and you get a lot more money if you import the save.
That's why I have money.
Yes, but I don't think it's necessary because you'll still get what's going on. However, there's some characters, especially early in the game, that it helps to know who they are and what Geralt's been through with them.
It does not
it
begin
adds
with
the
like
impact.
hand-holding in the narrative. I think
No.
that you just go with it, and then you're like, okay, I can follow.
gradually-
I
this
think it
story.
helps a lot if you know who Triss is. If you know who Triss is, King Foltest, Dandelion.
Yes, there's a
Zoltan.
character named Dandelion.
gonna
in
say
one
To
of
be
the
fair,
fair,
what-
cards.
when I read the book originally, I pronounced it Dandelion. I didn't.
Wow.
Like,
You
there's
went
no
way
way
beyond it.
to
Couldn't
know
possibly-
Dandelion. But it's so it helps. I think it definitely adds some dramatic impact, and the other thing is The Witcher 2's gameplay is such a massive leap over the first
it
one
is.
that you'll have a hard time going back to the first one after you've
In
played
fact,
this one.
I think, and especially for me, I just, having recently finished The Witcher, it kind of worked at a deficit that I just realized I need to ignore all of the way that I played the first one in approaching this. And I think I kind of confused myself and stumbled a little bit because I assumed there was some relevance
But
to how
why is
things were
that? Why do
handled.
you have to do it? Like, what's different? So different about it?
It was mainly because the first one was a really heavily modified version of the Neverwinter Nights 1 engine. And then this one's their own proprietary engine they wrote themselves. And it's more of the first one was more of like a point and click, like Knights of the Old Republic style, like real time but turn based under the hood. You can pause at any time, sort of RPG.
yeah.
This is an action based action RPG.
It's a tough one.
Like the
This
combat is combo based, twitch reflex, like Batman Arkham Asylum style
Wow.
combat. It is not turn. I mean, there's stats and skills under the hood, but like you are playing directly. You're directly in control. You're
Like I
not-
just played the opening kind of prologue, and it starts with this massive battle, and I was just bouncing back and forth between guys. And I was like, "What game is this? This is,
Yeah,
this
it's
is
hard.
so
It
insane.
is hard.
It's crazy.
It will kill you in
This
a,
is
in a
one of the
split
most
second.
brutal tutorials I have ever seen, and and actually I found though that dying quite a few times did help. I was like, okay, I'm slowly getting how I'm supposed to handle this combat.
really satisfying though.
Yeah.
And by the end, because if you watch the footage that we have, I think it was on Attack of the Show, and it's going to be in our review that's going to be on the site soon. That's footage that I captured after having played the game for like 10 hours and then going back, starting a new game for the video capture. And you can see that I'm playing it a lot better. I'm playing it a lot better in the footage than I did the first time through. I'll tell you that much. I mean, it's like, because now you're just jumping around and killing stuff, and you know exactly what to do. And then, like, when you first start, the game doesn't tell you anything about. But every time you hit a combat difficulty wall in that game is because you're neglecting part of your arsenal, which, granted, might be because the game neglected to tell you much
they
about
say
your
there are
arsenal.
tutorials, right?
And also in the first Witcher, going back to your question, I found that there was pretty much one spell, maybe two spells that were truly useful if you wanted to go combat heavy. That is not the case here, and I'm finding that almost all of these spells are essential, and you get them all at the beginning of the game, and so don't ignore that. Also, I never got the skill that allowed me to make bombs. And here, you already have bombs, and you can use them, and you can already use traps, and I've also found that to be very, very useful. So in that way, ways in which I found that I could just lean heavy on this one thing and get through the original Witcher, you have to be a little bit more broad-based. And I think that most people who haven't played Witcher 1, they just see spells and this. They're just going to be doing it from the get-go.
Yeah, the interesting thing about The Witcher 2, Witcher 1 had it too, but The Witcher 2 more so because you can't drink potions in combat. You have to be in meditation stance to drink potions. And
well, that would make it hard.
The lore behind it is that like the potions are toxic. They give him superpowers, but they damage him. And so you have to really be in a mindset to deal with what they do to your body. In order to drink them, you can't just like start downing them while you're fighting.
Which means that you sometimes have to just guess if combat's out around the corner.
And well, it makes it so the game is as much about preparation as it is about execution, which makes it a very interesting balance.
I mean, everything about this game, there are aspects of this game that look familiar from other RPGs and like real time RPGs, but its take on it, and I think part of this is because this is a Polish developer Poland is far away. And also, this is like The Witcher as an IP is incredibly popular in Poland. That it's kind of afforded them to sort of experiment, knowing that they can probably make their money back on the Polish
They've already got a fan base.
sales.
They don't need us.
Yeah. And so they I don't want to say watered down, but they're taking unique approaches. The conversation, because you do change the story based upon decisions. This is nowhere close to the good evil split you see in Mass Effect or other games out there.
No,
I mean,
and this is the one game.
I saw there's like a million possible endings. It seemed like
16, I think.
Yeah,
and then there's like no, because a lot of games do the whole your decisions change how the story goes, and it's usually just like either people are jerks to you or they're not. This one, near the end of chapter 1, you make a major decision, which is pretty clearly delineated. And that completely changes what happens in chapter 2. Like there is zero content overlap.
Yeah,
based on your decision.
That's
like you see about 2/3 of the game's content in one playthrough because the decision you have to make is so it's basically divides you, against certain factions that like there's no way you could do that content at the same time. It's totally different. And then chapter 3 is sort of the final act, and that is similar, but you still are in a totally different perspective and with different people. So very worth playing again. I certainly will. I mean, it's exciting to play it again because you're like this. It's half a new game almost.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
I just love when I'm presented with the answers, like my choices, and it's like, well, these all seem kind of just unpleasant, and that's really like this game just has this kind of Eastern European just kind of fatalism that kind of hangs
it's a very
over
unpleasant world.
It's brutal.
That's the thing I noticed. I saw it a little while ago, but the world is just grimy and dank. And
it's incredibly well realized, and like you can smell it in places, and everyone
really, really
everyone
nice.
actually looks like they're from the Middle Ages. Like everyone's dressed like the clothing and the attention to the embroidery in the clothing, and like no one's really all that attractive looking.
No rock and roll hair.
Except
no rock and roll faces?
Except for the sorceresses are all supermodel hot, but
Well,
they are
and naked a lot.
Come on.
naked a lot. But they get around that by they're like like centuries old magical beings, so they can basically like project whatever appearance they want.
They can just Botox themselves
They
like
have
that.
glamour.
So they apparently all want to look like hot young women forever.
Who wouldn't? Right.
And it's a fascinating world because like it's clearly written with adults in mind, not just in the sense that a lot of people take their clothes off, but like it's about politics and agendas and who wants this and jockeying for position in a political sense and nobility versus peasants at one point and justice versus injustice versus vengeance. I mean, and they don't deal with them in the sense of like your average like JRPG, which would be like as long as you have a lot of friends, you can conquer anything kind of thing. It's not. It's there is no right answer, and sometimes you might regret what you did because it puts you in a even if you did what you think was right later on, you're just like, oh, this sucks. As a direct result of me trying to do the right thing, I've just screwed us all.
I like that when there's no obvious right answers. That's
No,
like my favorite.
it really is. It really is an absolutely fascinating game. And one thing I want to point out: this plays on a PC. You can play it using a 360 controller, and I am.
Yeah, very
the
well.
The entire menu shifts once it knows that you're using the gamepad. I love it. I think it's great for the combat because some of that combat is very familiar from console games. It does have the one issue with PC games that I have is it's still a crapshoot if it's going to run right when you install it. But if it try it, if it works for you, I just think that you're going to play a game that's probably not going to have an equal.
And I really think I can't wait for more people to get to the ending and see what people think of it because I thought it was very well wrapped up. because it's not a cliffhanger. It wraps up what happens in the game, but the situation, kind of the world is left in at the end, is going to make one hell of a Witcher 3.
Yeah.
And like it's not often that like I like applaud a credit screen, but I might have put my hands together a couple times for this one. It's not even necessarily that epic a finish, but it's just such a satisfying ending that seems to know what you want out of that game after spending 40 hours with it.
I mean, and it's also, this is one of those really good. We don't get the opportunity to have such a good game that really has the risk of going under the radar. And this is one, just, tell your friends. I mean, this really is.
And I hope that
not like other games out there.
There are rumors of a console version maybe coming. Like, I don't know how they would put that
technology
graphics engine on one of the current consoles, but I mean, I hope, however it happens, it manages to happen so that more people can get this in front of them. Because
and that's the thing too. It's like if you like, I'm not a big fantasy RPG kind of guy or whatever, but like playing it, you're instantly into it. Like if you're, it's going to attract a lot of people. That it's going to surprise a lot of people too.
This is, as someone who has been thoroughly and repeatedly disillusioned with the Dragon Age series, this is what
Dragon
I
Age.
think they're trying to make with Dragon Age.
Yeah.
Poland.
Yeah, I mean, no,
Yeah.
and once again, because it is from a development community that we don't see much product from, there's just a wonderful sense of something new that's in this game. That it's a little bit hard to articulate it, but you'll know it the minute you start playing.
And you can frankly kind of feel the love put into it. It's.
I think this is a small team to see what they made
Yes.
with it. It's almost like, guys, go easy on
You can even
yourselves.
scale
I'm a
back.
little worried.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where they go from, because to me as an old Sega fan, I get like a classic Sega vibe from this. Like, how are you doing this? Why did you make that? It's wonderful and I love it, but how is there possibly an audience for this? But it's just this little team out of Poland that made something that I think can hang with any AAA game released in the
I
last
agree.
few years.
I agree 100%. That is The Witcher
Well
2.
said.
The review is up on the website. Matt Kyle wrote it, so read it. He uses good words. And
Maybe not so good as Adam Zelling Noir review, though.
Well, one day we'll have a word off.
Word off.
We'll write a review together.
We're going to have to do it on the toilet like Velbiv did.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I love that idea. Well,
how
thank
we
you,
film that.
Jake Gaskill, Emily Gordon, Matt Kyle. This is feedback. We got one more of these puppies before the big E3. So if things start leaking, we'll be the bucket
I will.
that catches them, and then we can all have a glass of fresh leak water.
Too close to that build up.
Okay, we're going to work on that metaphor, and we'll have it for you next week on Feedback.
Hi, I'm Blair Butler, and if you like comics or you watch the Fresh Ink segment on Attack of the Show, guess what? I review brand new comics every single week on Friday. Just go to g4tv.com/freshink and you'll have comics galore, a virtual waterfall of comics, although that would bend them and that would decrease their value, which is terrible.